I want to welcome you again to our show, Diaspora Live Show. In this show, we discuss issues that are happening around the world, but more specifically in the diaspora. But because of the politics, and because right now we are entering the season of politics, both in the US and in Kenya, a lot of the time we are going to be spending discussing politics. And I had this particular panel last week, and I can assure you that the response has been overwhelming. It's really surprised me. I'm getting a lot of feedback. There's a lot of engagement, especially from people in Kenya. And I guess it's because of the discussion. Because at times when you touch the so-called two principles, Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, you're talking about the dynasties.
the third rail.
There's always, most of the time, a backlash, especially from those who think that this guy should not be criticized or you know, kind of in just a nice way, told that what they're doing is may not be really helpful to the country beyond just themselves. So we expect that as a show, but one of the reasons why we do this is because as the diaspora, we are unapologetically intellectuals, most of us, people who are doing great things away from home. Most of us, we kind of, you know, we classify ourselves as economic refugees. We've had those ones who've studied here, gone back home, like Dr. Wangusi, and they just completely, they found the environment at home completely very hostile to the diaspora. So they had to pack up and join once again, the international trail. One of these days, Dr. Wangusi, we have to talk about what they
We'll definitely have that discussion.
Yeah, but so that's why we do this. We really value the comments, the input, the criticism from our viewers, because that's the only way we grow as a show and also as people. So last week we discussed BBI and how that is affecting Kenyans, and you know, we showed people that the show was very balanced, to be honest with you, because we had Professor Monda telling us that these guys have to really, you know, navigate the transition. So today we, like I promised last week, we are talking about the role of Dr. The DP William Ruto, and today what we want to discuss about is his place in the transition, because honestly the transition is taking place in Kenya right now, but it just so happens that him being the deputy president is taking the back seat in this transition. So my panel is very, very, very knowledgeable about these issues. In fact, Dr. Wangusi, before he came, when he was in Kenya, he was working in the DP's office. So he knows the DP and how he works very, 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 very personally. And him is the one who is going to tell us about, beyond just going to church, the DP is a serious guy. Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot. So, welcome, and guys, let's get into this thing, because you know we want to spare time, and I, of course, no, we have Washington Osiro from San Francisco on our panel once more. He's joining us again. We also have Professor Monda, the professor, the teacher on this show. When we want to learn something, we go to him. And once again, we have Dr. David Amakobe. Amakobe is a very, very thoughtful guy. He's also like Ochwangi. He really balances the show. And of course, again, we have David Ogega. I call him Ochwangi. Ochwangi is the best friend of David President. David is joining us from Atlanta City. David is also involved in many diaspora-based organizations. He's one of the leaders in this diaspora group that bring Kenyans together. So straight away, let's get into this. And let me bring in David Ogega from the deep business. By the way, to be clear, David can't stand Ruto. David, can you? My question is this.
Right.
Why is it that there's so much hostility about the David President Ruto in Kenyan politics right now as we speak?
First of all, Chris, again, thank you so much for the opportunity once again to speak about this subjects that we all care about. And it's true, I'm also just as passionate about our country, Kenya, and the things that affect us. And right now, let's just put it this way. I am not the biggest fan of William Samoei Ruto. It's just, it's common knowledge, just like you said it. But I think it also goes to the character or the content of the character of the man himself. I think his record speaks for itself from as many years back as we remember, since he joined politics. I've been actually following him, so I can kind of walk you through his milestones in politics. And unfortunately, in this case, there's not a whole lot to admire. And it's gotten to a point where I just feel that there's really nothing redeemable about William Ruto that would render him suitable as president of our country or as the next president. But at the very moment, this right moment, right now, I think the evidence speaks for itself. His conduct and those that support him, whether you want to call them, some of them, I refer them as sycophants, but they're putting the country on a warpath, on a conflict with itself. They're antagonizing the president against the people of Kenya, and in the process, making the country so hard to govern. William Ruto has been campaigning for the last 7 or 8 years to replace or succeed Kenyatta. I think he just wants to replace him outright, because politics, elections are not until 2022. 2 years is a long time. Even as we speak now, the man has been campaigning, but look where it's gotten us.
David,
we've been conflict.
Let me just quickly, I can't hold myself. Let me quickly respond to that.
Go ahead.
So the fact is that the deputy president holds a political office. And that means that by virtue of that responsibility and that mandate, he is going to be very visible. He's also very outspoken in his character. And as a result, he's going to develop a persona or a perspective about what his intentions are. He's also not made it any secret that he has every intention to run for the presidency. And then let me also just make sure that we have in context what this discussion really is about. I don't think it's really about the man or the character of the deputy president, Ruto. It's a continuation of what we were talking about yesterday, with respect to the fact that for 50 years now, our country has been held hostage by a group of dynastic families. The Kenyatta family at the top, the Odinga family, the Moi family, and to a small extent the Mudavadi family. And if you look at this axis which they have developed around the BBI, they're basically saying we're going to keep Raila, Kenyatta, Moi, and Mudavadi as the anointed, not even appointed, but anointed rulers of Kenya. What this means to me is that we really have to ask the question as to whether this election is about what they say is within the BBI discussion, which they're saying, oh, Kenyans don't get along, or Kenyans have tribal animosity. It is just patently untrue, I have to say, because
I agree.
Other than when we have elections, and other than when we have elections that involve these families in one way or another, we live at peace. Kenya is a peaceful country if you have lived there. So this election is, to me, a referendum of whether or not we want to continue being ruled by dynasties, or we want to start being governed by leaders that we elect, that we select.
Dr. Ormus, if I may just, I know I have maybe a
David, hang on. Let's go to Dr. Makobe. Let's bring in a balanced voice. Dr. Makobe, I know you follow this politics at home quite seriously. And of course, as a student of politics, you understand very well transitions. In your view, do you think the deputy president of Kenya right now should be at the center of the so-called building bridges across wherever?
Anybody who uses the word deep state in reference to any government anywhere is somebody you will have to be wary of, because in any government, in any organization, there is a structure, okay? And that structure requires that it remains. Anybody who comes and tells you that there is a deep state controlling you and we need to get rid of it and replace it by me or by them is basically saying, give me a blank check and I'll do what I want to do. I understand the frustration that maybe some families may look like they have been ruling the country for a long time, but that comes from the fact that maybe on the breakfast table, on the dinner table, these kids are always listening to the administration and the rule, how politics is working, and they get into that field. Most of the people, if they are in medicine, family is going to medicine because that's what they know. If they are in architecture, they go to architecture because that's what they know. If they are in politics, most of them will always tend to go towards politics. Look about the U.S. The Kennedy family is always going to politics. So what I'm saying is that we have to separate the idea of succession and specific families from the person who may want to go and take the position. If they want to take it by burning down the structures, removing the rails, and then taking over. When they needed the rails, they wanted them. Now they don't want them, they want to remove. But we cannot have a situation whereby somebody is coming on the side, removing the rails, just by the fact that they think that some Kenyans are more likely to be president than the other Kenyans. So my view
what is more dangerous is changing a constitution
because
you don't want one person to become the president. That's it's a very bad precedent to actually build on.
Yeah, let me jump in.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Washington. Go ahead.
No, this idea that Ruto's character is wanting is really a red herring, because if we want to go down that path, we can list a lot of personalities in Kenya, in Kenyan politics, whose characters are very wanting. I mean, we've got Ruto was an ICC suspect. The current president was an ICC suspect. So let's not go down that. That's just a red herring. And then the idea that Ruto is campaigning is also a diversion. I mean, by the nature of his position as the deputy president, that is his job, is to basically sell whatever agenda the ruling party.
It's in the job description. Exactly.
Wait a minute, guys. Let me finish with just one last point. When they were campaigning in 2017, what was the tagline? Tano tena, kumi fresh. Okay, so all of a sudden, this Tano tena and kumi fresh is now there's something wrong with it. That is why.
Wait a minute.
Let me finish the thought. That is this demonization of Ruto exemplifies why Kenyan electoral politics is a dangerous affair, because there's this push to push some people away from being part of the electoral process, and that's what they're doing to Ruto, and I find that very, very dangerous.
Yeah, and Chris,
Prof. in fact, the question I wanted to ask you is,
Yes.
is can you make a difference between, right now, most people are saying they don't want Ruto to be the president because he's corrupt. Can you show me any leader in Kenya right now
Who's not corrupt?
who is not corrupt?
So this is exactly the point. I think, and it's all a political game. All our leaders, in one form or the other, have had their hands muddied in corruption. Any Kenyan leader, whether it's Raila Odinga, whether it's our current president Uhuru Kenyatta, there were scandals when he was Minister of Finance.
Yep.
There's scandals when he's in office right now. We're even talking about our taxpayers as Americans going to help Kenyans who are dying of COVID that are being stolen left, right, and center. The buck stops at the top, at the president's office. And then, of course, there's William Ruto, who's had a whole range of scandals around his name. But I think the important element of this is, how do we differentiate this binary? Because we're creating this dichotomy of elites versus, or dynasties versus, versus the common man, right? In other words, the elites versus the electorate. And I see this argument as very much more of a chicken and an egg. Where does the electorate have their complete say? And where does the elite have their complete say? I think all these things are very much intermingling. You cannot deny the children of Raila Odinga or Uhuru Kenyatta a chance to lead the country just because of an accident of birth. That is wrong.
But
we've not done it in this country.
But the Kenyans are not, we're not even suggesting that.
Nathan, let me finish. Nathan, let me finish. And then on the other hand, the majority, the populace, the majority of our Kenyan people, unfortunately, don't really understand what the political game is. Our people are struggling financially. If you look at the crowds that went to support Ruto when he went to Keroka, when he went to Kisii town, does that really mean the man is popular in Kisii? No, a lot of those people don't have work. A lot of those people are struggling for handouts from these politicians. I've been to these rallies. So this idea that somehow someone went to an area and they're popular, I think is really not particularly accurate. So I think in the broad picture, we need to be very careful, on one hand, not to demonize people because they're elites or they've been in power for a long time. That's politics. But on the other hand, everybody has a right to engage in the political game, whether it's William or whether it's Nathan, David, or Cyril. We all have a right. So ultimately, I think the bottom line, as I see it, is a structural issue in Kenya. How do we enable the Mwananchi to really make smart choices? Because our people, if you go to rural parts of Kenya, you give someone even 100 shillings and they're so grateful. It's unbelievable. The level of poverty on the ground is extremely high. And this is why our elections become so violent, Chris, because people are struggling. People are really, really struggling. So I guess the big trick is, how do you figure out how to ensure that people can actually make smart choices? And in lieu of that, when people can do that, then the elites have to take leadership. And this is exactly what's going on right now.
If I can get just 1 minute, I've been struggling to get in. I'm burning to get up.
Let me just say, but what we can't do, what we absolutely can't do is...
One more thing, just a second, please, if you don't mind, because I want to respond directly to what you said when you started. There's this argument that some of you are advancing, and that's not just you in this panel, but the truth of the matter is Ruto has been campaigning to be president. You might want to characterize that as being part of his job, but there's a seasonality with everything. When you campaign to assume a position or office, there's something about that position that you campaigned for that you promised. There's so much that Jubilee and Ruto and all these guys, the president himself and Ruto promised.
that they've not delivered. The president has been on the forefront, and I don't hold brief for Kenyatta, but I'm just saying that he's tried, at least on his second term, to deliver on what he said. But do you know who's been bringing or dragging him down? It's a man, it's a second in command that has been campaigning from day one. And
let me respond. Let me
not come to the with the
guys. Let me respond.
Office so you can campaign for the office with both holes. That's not what the job description is about. Let me finish quickly.
Sorry. Let me respond. Let me respond.
No, just a second. Yeah. You guys have been saying that, you know, I don't know what kind of Kool-Aid some of you, I'm sorry, not me, but there's some of this narrative that's the Kool-Aid people are taking, that all of a sudden, it's like an epiphany, that all of a sudden there's a dynasty. It's us versus the dynasty. I don't know how you can get to that conclusion. Of course, it's a Ruto narrative.
Let me respond. Let me respond.
David, let's go to
the class. Ruto has created this class warfare between the people and governments that he served. He served under Moi. He served under Kibaki. He served under Uhuru Kenyatta. But all of a sudden now, it's a dynasty that we're fighting about.
I think we need to have some perspective as to what, just to begin with, politics is about. So you're constantly.
This is a season to serve.
Hold on.
This is a season to serve the people and deliver on the promises that you made.
Let me finish.
Failed miserably.
Let me finish that thought. So let me finish that thought. So I can speak a bit more with a bit more clarity on the character of the man, because I've been on exactly the receiving end, both of what is competent about him, but also what is deemed as not very favorable about him. So if you remember, about 3 or 4 years ago, there was an incident in Langata Road where students were gassed by the police. I was right in the center of that incident. I was going to work, and then police showed up, and this happened. So a lot of adults ran to help this situation. I was one of those people, and we later found out that it was possibly because the man was trying to take over the playground. So brought this big debate about the Occupy Playground movement. Now, at the same time, around the same time, I was serving as a technical advisor to a committee looking at trade competitiveness in Kenya. And we reported to him once every 2 weeks. So what I observed from those experiences was that you had, on the one hand, you had a man who was Machiavellian, obviously has self-styled himself and built wealth in very questionable ways. But at the same time, Ruto is also a very shrewd, intelligent, detail-oriented, and ambitious person and politician. And those characters are what have steered him to the second in command in the Republic of Kenya. I would argue right now that he may be the only person with political capital to then take Kenya's leadership to the next level. And you see it. That's why he's the target of what they're calling the deep state, the established political families, whatever you want to call them. There's a reason they're afraid of his presidency. The second thing we really need to be not only honest about, but also forthright, not only to our viewers, but also to the people of Kenya, is that this initiatives around BBI, all the political posturing, it's really just an instrument for established political families to gain power. There's this narrative that there's no one who's excluded, who should be excluded from power. At the same time, nobody should change the rules of the game to favor themselves just so that they capture the state, or so that they play unfair and take the reins of power.
Exactly.
Play on a level field and let the people of Kenya decide what kind of future they want. Here in the US, we elected Trump. The American people elected Trump, and that's who we have to work with. That is what democracy is supposed to do. So if the people of Kenya decide that they want to elect William Samoei Ruto versus any other established or third-party candidate. That is what democracy is about, and that's what we should allow to happen.
In Massachusetts,
Washington.
let me add on to that. In Massachusetts, one of the dynastic members, one of the Kennedys, lost the elections to Ed Markey in the recent, I think it was a primary. And that was, the elections were done within the existing framework. Nothing was moved. The Democratic Party did not make new initiatives to push one candidate over the other. They just let the playing field as it was, and Kennedy lost. So
and it's true. Let me just add really quickly that democracy does not owe anybody any favors.
It doesn't.
Right?
But
and for me,
we should not make it.
And we should not change the rules. So one of the things that I'll say what I'll say categorically about this William Ruto versus the dynastic political positions, I'll say this without any apology. I would rather be governed by a hustler than be ruled over by a king. I would rather.
David,
Listen, when I'm getting character, I look at trust and competence. What Professor Ongisi has said, he has said that Dr. Ruto is a very competent person.
Right.
Okay, good. But is he a trusted person? I rather I start with a trusted person, a person I trust, and then he be competent, because competence I can teach. But trust you can't. I would rather have.
So Dr. Makobe, let me answer this question. Answer this question for me. So if William Ruto is not a trusted person, is Raila Odinga, who asked young people to go out on the streets and get killed, get maimed by the police, then changed position on them almost on a fly? Is that a person?
Chris, I'm not holding brief. Chris, can I? I'm not holding brief. Can I jump in, Chris, real quick? Please, just a minute. I'm saying I'm not holding brief for Oginga or for Uhuru or for anybody of these people. I'm saying first, we change the constitution, and that constitution should remain, because we can't change it. We can't change it at will, because that's what happened, what led us where it is now.
No, you make a valid point.
And then you don't change the rules. You don't change the rules of the road to fit you. But what I'm saying, if
what you just said, the truth of the matter, what you just said is true, because this BBI initiative, I call it the Stop Ruto initiative. That's really what it is.
Call it what it is.
So Chris, I think I'm a little confused here, because we seem to be approaching politics like it's this game of morality and baking cookie. Politics is about lying. Politics is about deception. Politics is about getting the advantage. In other words, public morality is different from private morality. Your faithfulness to your wife is very different to your faithfulness to the state. You need to lie to protect the lives of your citizens. That's what politics is.
No.
Let me make that context. The President of the United States, if I am in negotiation with Iran, and I know United States has certain number of nuclear weapons, I am not gonna show my hand to my enemies if I know they're gonna destroy me. I have to play deceptive. I have to lie. That's the context. Let me make one more point in terms of.
There's a difference.
One second.
Difference between telling a lie and concealing or telling a lie.
So you miss me when the others do the same.
I'm completely out of my time, and I wish I had 2 hours, because 30 minutes. That is our show, viewers. Thank you for joining us today. It is very hot. Even me, I'm feeling the heat from here. This is generally how things are.
This is how we roll.
Hope that you enjoyed the show. Join us again next week.
Hey guys, be safe. Be safe.
Thank you.
man.
Bye.
Be safe, guys, and thank you once again for enriching our discussion.
Okay.
We'll catch up.
Thank you.
Cheers.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.